So I guess this is the Erica and Eric show.
Welcome, everybody.
Y- Yeah, we could have a weekly special on this.
Sure, talking about the things that we eat, the things that we do.
So first,
Our,
let's welcome you in, Olympic champion Erica WIEBE. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, I know you've been doing a lot of interviews, so thanks for jumping on. I really appreciate it.
yeah, it's always an honor to talk to the Eric of wrestling.
So let's, where do we start? It's really been a roller coaster of emotion for you. I guess really since December, or you could even go back to October, World Championships. Then you go and you win the Canadian trials. You beat Justina D'Estasio. Then you go win the Mateo Pellicone. You win the Pan Am qualifier, and then the rug is pulled out from you. So let's just start there. How has your last couple of months been?
Yes, I guess to say a roller coaster is probably pretty accurate, but I would say, every year is a roller coaster for me. Since winning the games in 2016, it's just been crazy. But I've always just committed to doing a sport that I love and just being in it and showing up on the day, win or lose. And so, yeah, about a week after I qualified for the games officially, winning the Pan American Olympic qualifier, we heard that Canada was not going to send a team to the Olympics if they were to go on, which, as a defending Olympic champion who had just qualified, I was like, what the actual fuck? and it was really tough, but I also had a lot of faith in Canada. I had a lot of faith in the IOC, and I knew that they were going to do the right choice. And so I knew that this would mean that the games would probably be postponed. And I kind of knew in that moment that I would most likely be wrestling on early August 2021.
So take me back to that night. Of course, I'm sure when you heard it, it was probably you were an emotional train wreck, but you lay down at night and you finally have the opportunity just to clear everything, and it really sets in. Did you have an opportunity to sleep that night? Or, I mean, your dreams, really, because I look at it this way, you and Helen and Natalia Vorbiova are looking to become the first non-Japanese two-time Olympic champions. So not only are you looking to become a two-time champion, you're trying to rewrite a page in the history book. So what was that night like?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I think about it though, it was never about winning the Olympic Games in Rio. And I've obviously want to compete. I want to do my best in Tokyo, but I don't go to sleep at night thinking about an Olympic gold medal. I go to sleep at night thinking about how I'm going to be better tomorrow. And so on that Sunday night when I heard that Canada wasn't going to the games, it was like, okay, you know, kind of on to the next one, I guess. It's like, as athletes, it's like, what can we control? You can't control when the ref makes a bad call, which they do a lot. No, I'm just kidding. And just kidding.
Yeah, I know.
You can't control get taken down. All you can control is like how you get up and like how you face that moment. And so, yeah, like obviously it would be amazing to win again in Tokyo. But that's not what keeps me up at night.
Yeah, and it was so nice to see because, of course, I was in Rio and I wanted to cover a second Olympic Games, but to see your post the day after, it kind of put me at ease because you were so positive about it. And how can I, as a journalist, be so upset when you, like I said, are going for history and you are putting out nothing but positivity? So it kind of eased my mind as well. But let's jump back to Rio.
Wait,
Uh,
what did you think that night? Like you said, you were really upset. Like, what were you thinking?
yeah, you know what? Like you said, one medal, and actually I interviewed Jane Valencia and she said the same. One medal doesn't define you as a person. And I'm not in this covering wrestling only because I want to get to the Olympic Games. Yes, it's a huge factor in it, but to me, it was just like, yeah, it's going to go on. And I guess we're looking forward to the 2021 World Championships in Oslo. So,
Yeah.
but quarantine life, we'll start there. We'll get into the Rio a little bit later. Quarantine life, you have been making some hilarious videos. Where are you getting these ideas from?
Um, you know, just my friends and other family and like other people on Instagram. And I do want to make a caveat that I think I am actually a very athletic, dynamic person. But clearly I have a tendency to be a little bit klutzy or ridiculous, and I have no problems whatsoever putting my body at risk. So that was kind of like the ethos behind the videos, and I have no problems like showcasing the kind of pathway to achieve greatness because obviously there were lots of struggles and fails on the route to becoming an Olympic champion. And so there were lots of struggles and fails and mental preparation en route to putting a t-shirt on upside down.
Do you have any more coming?
Obviously, yes.
All right, so you just talked about it. You really never know what's coming with you. You're unconventional, much like your style of wrestling. And to me, I go back and I watch a lot of old matches, and I was watching footage from 2016, and you're hitting low singles, and I'm watching videos from the Olympic Games, and you're a defensive wrestler. And then when you look at Cesari last year, you're tossing Vorobyova. So where does that lay it all out on the line style come from? Have you always been that way?
I guess that's how I live my life, Eric. One, I have no idea what's going on at all times in life and in wrestling. And two, you know, I'm not adverse to taking risks in life and in wrestling and trying new stuff. And you know what? I'm all about like throwing it on the line and seeing what happens. And I guess ultimately, like, I'm a winner. And so you got to do what it takes to win in that moment. And I still remember like the match against Vorobyeva and Cesari last year, and like I had like some tactics and strategies to approach her. I know that she likes to tie up. I know that that's her strength. I know that she has like really nice 2-on-1 to firemen's and a number of different attacks from those angles. And so I was, you know, managing my head position and approaching that way. And I had a really nice pass by right at the beginning too that I didn't score on. And then I got put on the shot clock. And I remember like mentally in that moment, I was put on the shot clock. She kind of came in that overhook position. And I was like, you know what? Let's just fucking go. Like, and so I tried to kind of like duck my head over and put her to her back. And I was like, and then I had her on her back and I was like, I need to pin this now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, I think those are the moments that you train for. And those are the moments that you kind of revel in as an athlete, when you can just, it's like the physical feedback and like the mental feedback and the emotional feedback are all coming in to your neural network, and they all come together and you can create an action and execute a move. And I think for me, like that's kind of exciting experiences in sport. That's why I love it. It's not to win the Cesari, or it's not to win an Olympic gold medal. It is to you know, have those moments when everything comes together in a single strike, and it feels amazing. And that's like the 0.000000001% of life as a wrestler, but it makes it all worthwhile sometimes.
And I was watching your Olympic finals match. You're up 4-0 and you're still attacking. And if 90% of the other wrestlers out there would be jumping to conservative mode and trying to back out. So you still have that foot on the pedal, but it just shows me that your ability to open up in those big matches is something like, that's what you're so successful. So what would you say to young wrestlers out there who have struggled in the past with those big moments when they come to them and they just crumble? What would you say to those young wrestlers out there looking to get over that hump and get to the next level?
Yeah, I would say that you can't lose if you've already won. And so that's a mindset. And winning is the way in which you prepare every single day. Winning is the way in which you approach the match and you approach life. And, you know, when I think about that Olympic final, like I had done every single thing I could to prepare on that day. And to be honest, the best feeling that I had in Rio was the moment that I walked into the warm-up area that morning. I like walked into the warm-up area in Rio and I felt like 10 feet tall. I felt already like a champion. And all that was left in that day was just to like to showcase where I was at. And so in that match at the Olympic final, I was not thinking about the score. I actually had no idea what the score was. I mean, like I knew subconsciously that I was winning, but I also knew that it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about showcasing, how I could compete and perform on that day. And so that's why, I was keeping moving, I was keeping hand fighting, and I was looking to score because it was just the focus was one takedown at a time.
Let's jump back. So before, we'll say when you get to the arena, the brackets are out, and that top half of your bracket had you, it had Gray, it had Marzia Luke. We'll just there. So those three.
Xiao Fang, Olympic world silver medalist from China.
Cynthia Vaskin.
Yeah.
So you see Gray and Marzia Luke on that top side, and most likely if you were to make it to the semis, you would have one of those two. And I'm sure your camp probably guessing it would be Adeline Gray. She goes down. What are your thoughts going through there? Of course, you have to get through everybody, but you see at that point she was the defending world champion. So what was your mindset going into the semifinals?
Yeah, when I saw to take it back a step, when I saw the bracket, I was like, oh yeah. It was like exactly what I wanted. I wanted to, wrestle the best people on that day. And I wanted to prove, that I was ready to go. And so it was exactly what I wanted, and I was super excited. And I had prepared like physically, technically, tactically to wrestle pretty much everybody in the weight class. And so all that was left to do again was just to like be in the moment and take it one takedown at a time, and again like to showcase like that who I was. And to be fair, like I did take it one takedown at a time, and I wasn't thinking ahead to who I would potentially have in the semifinals. I was worrying about my first match, and I actually came out quite defensive in my first match at the games, and I wasn't super happy with how that went. And so, but it was again just like building towards wrestling my best on that day, and again wrestling it gets quicker and quicker as the day goes on, especially when we had the one day competitions. And so you don't have a lot of time to sit and think. You kind of just have to be in the moment. And so we had our ice vests to cool us down because the Rio warm-up area was very hot. Yeah. And there was a very short time between the quarterfinal and the semifinal. And I just remember jumping on the bike, cooling down, putting on the ice vest to lower my internal body temperature. And I was like, okay, I got Marzia Luke. And I didn't for a second think about, oh, I don't have Adeline Gray, or like, oh, what happened? I was like, this is who I have to wrestle now on this day. And I was ready to wrestle anybody. It wasn't a matter of that. And then so I just went out to the semifinal match and, shook the ref's hand, shook Vasilisa's hand, and we competed against each other for like a number of years, a number of times. And she's like an awesome competitor, world medalist, junior world champion. And the match ended, and I remember like hearing the whistle blow, looking over at the score clock, and it was 2-1, and I was like 2-1, and I looked down and I was like, I'm blue
Yeah.
one. And I was just standing there, and I was like, and then I was like, yeah.
You walked around and you were a little bit, and you had that white mouth guard. I'll never forget that. But you walked around and you just looked like shocked. You didn't know. It was just like was it an out of body experience?
Yeah, like I wasn't thinking at all about anything. I was not thinking about the outcome. I was not thinking about an Olympic medal. And then I kind of like zoned in for a second about it. I remember reading a story about like Dan Gable on the Olympic podium, and he looked like absolutely shell-shocked. Do you know what I'm talking about? And it was because he was just so focused in the zone on what he was trying to execute and perform. And it wasn't until like a couple hours later that he was like, finally it hit him emotionally. And so it was kind of an experience for me in that way. Like you're just so keyed into what you need to do. And so yeah, it was very weird.
Did you sleep that night? Because yeah, you have press right when you get off the medal podium, you're shifted out to all
Dope.
different doping and then press.
Yeah, doping, and then press. Yeah.
Oh,
I,
you know what? I forgot to show you.
oh, who's that? Nice, nice. Very
Yeah, my wife watched it today, and she was. By the way, every time you comment on one of my wife's photos, it's like we have like a special dinner for it. It's like this huge thing at my house. So she watched this morning, and she's like, "You have to wear it for the interview. She'd love it." And I was like, "All right, you act like you know her, so let's calm
highly.
down." Yeah,
So everybody watching on UWW, Eric's wife is an absolute babe. So
thanks,
good job, Eric.
thank you. Uh, um, so let's try and get this thing back on the rails. So you get whisked off. You're an Olympic champion. Did you said the medal doesn't define you, but at what point did your mind flip from Rio to Tokyo? When did you start? When did the hunger come back? Because you had one, and I'm sure once you had one, your mind immediately went to, I need another one. Was that the case?
We I like picked Paul up on my shoulders. That's Paul Magusa, my wrestling coach. Picked him up on my shoulders, and we like did our little lap around the wrestling mat. And I like put him down, and we're walking off the mat like arm in arm. And I was like, I was like, he's like, Erica, you're just scratching the surface of what you're capable of. And I was like, yeah, I feel that too. And I was like, let's fucking go, let's do this again, you know? And so like I got off the plane in Ottawa, where I grew up, back home in Canada, and I was like, yes, like I'm doing this again. Like the next 4 years are going to be serving the purpose of getting being back here in 4 years' time. So it was like pretty immediate. and then and then then you kind of take your time off, and you go around, you do your little stuff. And then I remember my first practice back in the wrestling room in Calgary, and I was like wearing my mouth guard, and I was wrestling around with one of the guys, and then we're like in a scramble, and then he like elbows me in the mouth, and like take off my mouth guard, and I like spit out like two like chunks of chips of teeth, because I had like teeth like elbowed me so hard. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Like wrestling is such a physically challenging sport, and I've had like stitches all over my face, like lots of injuries, and it's like in that moment I was like, I'm Olympic champion. Why am I doing this? Like I could just walk away right now. Um, but obviously, like a lot of wrestlers are like sadomasochists, and we love the pain and the heartache that is sport. And so I guess I do still truly love, I just love the process of mastery that is inherent in the sport of wrestling. And so that's why I continued on.
And you talk about Paul, and one thing I wanted to know from your standpoint, you're so successful, and I'm sure people just, everyone wants to be around a champion, right? But the champions have to have those people in their corner that are going to tell them the hard thing. They're going to tell them the things they don't want to hear. Is Paul that guy for you?
Yes.
Yes. So what is we'll say give us one piece of advice that he's given you, tough piece of advice, obviously, that maybe most other people wouldn't have given you because they were afraid to tell you.
Um, like just like everything he says every single day. I'm trying to think of like a good one. Paul is like the master of just like compliments in the or like yeah, he's just the master of just saying the right thing in the right moment. And he definitely keeps me accountable to like trying to achieve my dreams. He like really early on in my career, he was like, Erica, you are like a truck driver driving a Ferrari. Um, and so he like really believed in the potential of my potential athletically, but I was not disciplined in my approach to wrestling, like not disciplined in my on the mats and what I was executing, not disciplined in training, like working towards what I'm trying to achieve. So that was like a little bit of a wake up call, I guess. And yeah, like basically every single day he's like, "Are you sure?" Like I obviously like to be involved in a lot of stuff and outside of wrestling, and I like to be really dynamic and in my whole life. And so he's always like trying to pull me back and trying to just get me focused on wrestling. And I'm always focused on wrestling and I always show up 110%. But, but, you know, I like to do a lot of different stuff in my life. So it's my challenge.
Yeah, and speaking of doing different stuff in your life, what is the goal after the Tokyo Olympics? Do you plan to go? I guess it would be 3 years. So do you plan on looking towards Paris, or is it too early to tell?
Yeah, I always try and take it day by day, but I would love to represent Canada in Paris in 4 years' time.
All right. Paul, I was going to jump to the quickfire questions, but to me, you're what I love seeing the photos of you and Danielle together, just because it's a genuine it's a genuine friendship that you can tell just is there. You don't have to work towards it. I'm sure you guys have been around each other for long enough that it's one of the, you could not see each other for 10 years and pick up right where you left off. What has it been like, because she is now qualified for 2 Olympics? So what has it been like for you to achieve the success with her?
Yeah. Danielle and I, we actually went on our first ever international team trip with Team Canada 16 years ago as cadets. We went to Götzitz, Austria. And so we made our first ever Team Canada together. And so we've been on this journey together like this whole time. And she actually moved away and did university at Simon Fraser University, and I stayed in Calgary. And then following the 2016 games, she moved to Calgary to basically join our training team and to train with me and Paul. And, you know, my best friend, Jasmine Meehan, she was seventh at the Olympic, or she was seventh at the World Championships in 2017. She's on the UWW Athlete Council. And so she was on that trip too. And then Jasmine retired in 2017, and Danielle and I we began training together. And I can like honestly say I wouldn't be training today if it wasn't for her, because it's really tough doing it alone. And I know there's a lot of women around the world that, you know, wrestle alone just because the sport's still growing. And like, you know, kudos to them, because it is an incredibly difficult road. And so to have Danielle like every single day by my side, like challenging me and inspiring me and just making me laugh, it makes the journey worthwhile. And I think that she's going to be Olympic champion in 2020, 2021. So I'm just proud to watch her do that. I can't wait.
And let's talk about your outlook on 2021. Of course, the Olympics, you're going to defend your title. We talked about it in Italy. The bullseye's on your back, and you either can embrace it or cave to the pressure. What are you looking forward to for 2021?
Yeah, I mean, the bullseye's on my back, and I'm a competitor, and I'm always going to be a competitor, and I'm always going to be the type of person that thrives in high pressure situations. So bring it on.
And Adeline Gray, of course, the defending world champion. I can't talk to you without talking about her. What has it been like competing against her in the brackets? I mean, you guys head into the Olympic Games, and I'm sure she has a target on your back. You have a target on her back. So what's that rivalry been like?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been one to back down from situations, and you know, I compete a lot, and I love putting it on the line, and on the biggest stage and the most tough moments, I always seem to come out on top. And so I'm looking forward to just once again, you know, coming out to play when all the chips are down on the table. And I hope that we'll get to wrestle in the near future, and I hope that, you know, I'll get to showcase that. And I think that, you know, she hasn't wrestled that much. I think that a year is going to be really tough. And when I think about it, you know, she was world champion in 2015, and all the pressure was on her at the Rio Games. She's Olympic champion, or she's world champion right now. And I know that it irks her that she does not have an Olympic medal. And for me, I really don't care about Olympic medals. I care about having the best performance, and that's what I'm looking to do in Tokyo.
All right. Have some quick fire questions.
Let's
Are
go.
you okay if you up for it?
I'm up for
All
it.
right. All right. So, what year was your first World Championships at any level?
2008.
2008. Do you remember who won that bracket?
Was it for WIEBE?
No. Yilmaz from Turkey?
Oh.
Yep.
I was just doing it for the guys.
What place did you take at your first Senior World Championship?
Jesus, is this like a skill testing question? Probably my first 12th.
10th. Best follow on Instagram.
Best what?
Best follow. Who is the best person to follow on Instagram? Or like Earth Pics or
Frank Chamizo.
Frank Chamizo. Yeah, he is a great one. Okay. Favorite fast food joint?
I like Cinnabon.
Cinnabon. That is a great one. Airport food. Best pound for pound women's wrestler right now.
Yui Sasaki, come on.
Okay.
So easy.
Excuse me?
48 kilos. They make it look so easy.
Her numbers are through the roof. It's insane. Best place that you've ever wrestled?
Rome.
Rome. Favorite city you've ever visited?
Yes.
Rome as well. Best women's wrestler to never win a world title?
Erica Wiebe.
Well, well, you just gave the answer. I was going to say, who will win the 76 kilo Olympic title in Tokyo? And I'm sure your answer is going to be the same for that as well.
I guess that's the way to find out.
Yes. So I will open up the floor to you. A lot of fans want to hear what you have to say, especially in this time. So please take this moment to say whatever you want to the fans and give them your social media channels as well so they can follow you.
Sure. Well, if you look above, there is UWW Wrestling with WIEBE. So you can follow me on Instagram and try and do some challenges. It's fun. You can also follow me on Twitter, Erica Wiebe, or on my Facebook page, Erica Wiebe. It's WIEBE. And it's tough. I mean, I know wrestlers all around the world are missing wrestling. I'm missing wrestling, but this is so much bigger than sport. And I think that when the time comes, sport will unite everybody globally. I'm really excited. What I would love to see on Challenging UWW is, I think, there might not be a lot of competitions on the schedule leading into the Olympic Games, but I think wrestling fans want to see the best matchups as soon as possible. So I think it'd be super cool to have a United World Wrestling dual night, and you have some of the best matches of men's and women's and Greco wrestling in 2020 as a little preview for the Olympic Games. So, a 10-match dual league, I'm there. And I'll wrestle Adeline, I'll wrestle Hiraway, I'll wrestle anybody. But make it happen. Who wants to see that? Come on.
I would love to see it. An all-star duel. Okay. Well, Erica Wiebe. Don't get me going. All right. Well, Erica Wiebe, Olympic champion, thank you so much for joining us. From everyone here at United World Wrestling, wish you nothing but the best of luck. And of course, stay strong, stay at home.
Thanks. Stay strong, stay at home, guys. You heard it. Bye.
All right, bye.